My name's Elfie Coyle. I'm the creator and chairman of Lightmare Studios, and I'm also the vision holder along with Ian for Infinity Wars. So my role in the company is to come up with groundbreaking ideas and put them in place, and specifically with Infinity Wars is to look at how do we craft a game that everyone is going to love, particularly trading card gamers and even casual gamers getting into the game.
Yeah. And my name's Ian Underwood. I'm the lead game designer for Infinity Wars. So I've been an avid trading card gamer for years. I actually had to stop for a little while because I moved to a remote town and then I wasn't able to play anymore. So this is something that I've been really looking for, even though I didn't really realize it, because I could play against just anybody with what I love. So I'm the lead game designer. I design a lot of the cards and actually program them in. And then just make sure that we have all the artists and everyone's working on everything. So basically, Elfie created the company, and then I helped create his visions, and our vision, rather.
Yeah, our vision, definitely. We're definitely, we see it as a partnership. We've co-created this concept. It was actually us sitting there up until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning that day when we were sitting there with all different trading cards and coming up with a way to create something new.
Yeah, driving in the car and just being like, brainstorming all these different ideas when it really hit us. We should make a digital trading card game.
That's animated.
Yeah, animated. that was the spark that set everything off.
Yeah.
And they were just like, whoa, there's this huge unexplored space.
Yeah. So basically, anyone who's familiar with a trading card game, so whether it's Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh or anything like that, they'll be able to literally just do one very simple level to be able to pick up our game. One of the things we wanted to do is make sure that our game was very much in the same vein of those games. They still had that level of strategy and being able to have that many cards out in play. Many of the trading card games that are out there at the moment, the digital ones, are very, very simplistic. They haven't got any real strategy to them.
Yeah, and I think actually that respect is a good word to use because these trading card games do have like a very rich, in-depth history. And which we want to make sure that we were a part of and that we were respecting. And we want to build on top of that, taking it to the next level, having that digital element. We want to make a card game that really took advantage of the digital element as well. Do all sorts of things that normal trading card games wish they could do, but they can't because they're just made of paper. So Infinity Wars takes place in actually multiple worlds. So the history is that there was once the one world, but some very powerful magicians, they got too greedy and delved into stuff that was just too strong for reality to cope with. And reality actually broke apart into all these other different worlds. And they all went off in their own different directions.
They're parallel worlds. They're the same
parallel
world, but in
worlds,
parallel universes.
So all in these different parallel universes. And over time, they've all just developed along their own courses. And when Infinity Wars actually takes place, these rifts have opened up between the worlds so that they can actually go into the other worlds and invade. So these different worlds, there's different factions on top in the worlds, and these factions are represented in the game. So you have dark magicians and like an army, very militaristic, going on crusades, trying to conquer the new world. And just all these different factions that the players can choose from to kind of craft their strategy and theme their deck around.
Why we wanted to make the game free to play is because back in the day, there's a bit of a story behind it. Back in the day, I used to have a little trading card shop, and I used to create little decks to lend out to people to start and play the game with, because a lot of the time, buying a starter deck for however much, $10, $20, it can be a bit of a block for people to get into the game. So we wanted to make it as easy as possible for anyone, even if they haven't played a trading card game, to be able to get into the thing. And so we've made the game free to download, and you even get like a free basic starter deck as well to start the game off with. So you can just get in and start playing and collecting cards without even paying a cent.
Like Elfie and I are both absolutely avid trading card game fanatics, and I've tried to always get all these different friends into it, and one of the problems is that they're always kind of scared of these different barriers to entry, complexity, and cost, right? You can't even start playing the game until you buy some cards. So we want to get those sort of things out of the way so that more people can enjoy the game and have fun.
One of the cool things about Infinity Wars as well is that you never actually have to buy a packet of cards. If you really wanted to and you had the time and the effort to be able to do it, you could play enough games, earn enough in-game currency to be able to buy all the cards in the game and buy the packets of the cards to start collecting all the cards in the game. Can be a bit of a hard thing to do because we're releasing new cards every week, but it's quite possible that someone could actually never pay a cent and have every single card in the whole game. Another thing that we stand for in our game is to never have a card that's not available to be able to be earned through the game. So there's no cards that can't be gotten in any other way besides playing the game and actually earning the cards.
Yeah, and I think that's mostly just a morality thing that is very important to us as gamers that have been playing these games. And when that sort of thing happens, we always feel cheated. We don't want that to happen. So the decks and all the different cards that you actually own are stored on a cloud of servers that we maintain. And you can access that cloud from pretty much anywhere, like through any system like PC or mobile, Mac, all these different things so that you make sure, Android,
iPad.
We just want to make sure like you have a client and that you can play the game no matter what, and you access your online database, play against anyone. So one thing is that if you're on PC, you can play against people that are on Android or iPhone and so on.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you're playing on. You'll be able to connect to the cloud and be able to play and be able to access your stored decks and your collection.
So one thing that's very nice is that you can make different decks. You don't need to worry about if you have enough cards for all your different decks. In that, like if you have 3 unending drones, you can put those 3 in any deck, and you don't need to worry about taking it out of one deck and putting it into another deck and re-sleeving it and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, basically once you've gotten one of the cards, you own that card and can use it as many times as you want in your decks until you trade it, of course.
Yeah, if you trade it away, then you don't.
One of the things we've got in the game we're working towards is having a stop and go system. So you can start a game up with somebody, pause the game, and come back later. Send your move, and let them send their move whenever they're ready to send their move. So you can have a game that takes place over a couple of days if people are busy, and you can just jump in for 2 minutes, play your turn, flick it off, and away it goes. So probably the most similar game I could think of that does that is something like Words with Friends or Chess with Friends. Those games where you can even play multiple games with different people and send your move away.
So this simultaneous turn-based gameplay thing that we've got going, it's a way that a unique system we've crafted so that we can actually have the games play out much smoother, and so there's not so much lag time and going back and forward between the players.
Yeah, like you're not always waiting for the other player to make that move.
Which is frustrating and annoying, obviously being over digital. So what we've done is you basically map out all your different actions that you're going to take in the turn, and then the computer will automatically entwine those actions and layer them one by one, so that an action is taken by each side as it plays out. And then at the end of the turn, all those actions just go and take place.
Yeah, so you pretty much have the planning phase where you plan out everything that you're going to do during your turn. And then once both people have clicked end turn, they actually all play out. And then it goes on to the next turn. And everyone's always active the whole time. You're never really just waiting for the other person.
So this simultaneous turn-based gameplay brings out a new couple of mechanics that we didn't even really necessarily expect when we were first making it. One of them is intrigue, and the other is bluffing. So you want to say a bit about those?
Very much bluffing.
Yeah.
Because when you're taking your actions, you're not necessarily certain what your opponent's going to do. You're trying to read them, figure out what they're going to do. So we try to design a lot of the cards that kind of tells, see what the opponent's doing. And that's very much a large part of Infinity Wars is figuring out, trying to next level your opponent, trying to figure out what they're going to do, and then head them off the pass. And it plays out quite really cool.
Yeah, and it's actually quite representative of what would happen if there was a couple of empires battling it out, because you have to try and figure out, is this guy going to go and attack now, or is he going to go and defend? And what am I going to do if that happens? And even if you're casting a spell, you might cast it and only affect someone in the battlefield, but you might be expecting him to put the character out in the battlefield. So you'll cast that spell on him, and then everything will resolve, and he ends up on the battlefield and has the spell casted on him. So it makes for a really interesting way of playing out a traditional game, which can only be done through the power of being digital.
Like obviously, if it was like cardboard, then you'd have to put up like a wall between each other. And I think that's what we did when we first started playtesting it, which was interesting.
It is interesting because actually years ago I designed a game that was actually simultaneous turn-based, and you had to write out each of your different commands and then compare notes at the end. It was really, really messy, but the cool thing is because it's digital, it's easy.
Digital, everything just works out smoothly.
So Infinity Wars has taken quite a number of innovations that have happened among trading card games over the past 15, 20 years, I think, since a lot of them have come out. And we've taken a lot of those innovations and added our own to make it so that the game plays out a lot more elegantly.
Yeah, stuff like, you won't be mana screwed.
Yeah.
And that's never fun. Never fun,
no. Another one would be that turn one options. So a lot of the time when you play a game, as trading card gamers would know, when you're on turn one, and maybe even turn two and turn three, it can be quite boring. So you've straight away got options if you've built your deck. One of the ways you can build your decks in Infinity Wars.
One of the mechanics of the game is that you start off with 3 generals, and these generals kind of define the flavor of your deck, and you can also bring out these generals to basically you always have these 3 cards that you can build your strategy around.
Yeah, and you can even bring them out as soon as turn 1 if you wanted to.
Yeah, like if they're cheap enough generals.
Yeah, exactly.
A common problem also in these trading card games is that you can have very high variance in the length of the games. Some games might only last like 5 turns. Those 5 turns go by very fast. Whereas other games will take like ages and ages. I've had 2-hour-long games that just was just this huge grind between me and an opponent, and everyone else had to wait for us to finish.
Whilst that may or may not be fun, in person, definitely when it comes to digital, we wanted to craft the game in a way that most games would go between 8 and 16 turns. So you wouldn't have a game going typically beyond 12 turns, really, unless we're doing something wrong.
Each of those 12 turns is filled with strategic depth, and every choice should matter. All right, so one thing that's in the game is that you have these location cards. And when you play a location, it's now like you've moved the battle to this location, and your battlefield, like the actual visuals on the screen, will change to this location that you're in.
Yeah, half the battlefield just transforms when the thing comes out. It's pretty epic.
It looks really cool.
Yeah.
And it gives you like this great feeling that this is your battlefield, you own it, and they give you very strong bonuses. So you often will want to craft a deck strategy around having these locations. So we really want to make it feel like they were important. The way that the game works is that you're attacking the other person's fortress, which is kind of like their location, and you want to destroy their fortress. And once you do, you actually win.
So when it comes to trading and tournaments and prize money, we're actually quite open on a lot of those areas. So one of the reasons why we're having the closed beta is to be able to get a good feel for what works with our audience, and particularly trading card gamers, what works for them as far as tournaments and trading systems.
That's actually another really good reason why we have this Kickstarter campaign is to get those sort of tournaments and server security and all those things that you need to make sure that, so you can't have like hackers just rigging tournaments. That sort of thing takes money.
Yeah, it does. And not to mention prize money.
Prize money. Well. Putting that.
We do want to make this into an esport, medium to long term. That's where we want to go with it, definitely.
In the Kickstarter campaign, backers that back at the count level are going to become part of our closed beta.
Yeah.
And we're going to be using a lot of that beta feedback from players to try to make this the best game we can, bringing a lot of their suggestions, and that to make the game really awesome.
Yeah. Even when it comes to mechanics in the game, we're still open on those fronts.
So we just want to thank all the backers from the Kickstarter campaign. It really means a lot to us to have a whole community behind us helping us make this game as awesome as possible. We're going to be taking a lot of feedback from Kickstarter backers and just to make everything as good as possible. Yeah,
and to you hardcore trading card gamers, we look forward to having you guys come on board and really help us craft and shape this game towards being what we hope will become the ultimate trading card game. Yeah. It's a big call. I said ultimate trading card. I left digital out there. Let's do it.